Good day, sir. We are Group 3, and I am Arman Joseph F. Watco, and we are here to discuss a certain topic, which is the petrology. So, what is the petrology? Well, petrology from the Greek word petros, which means rocks, and logos, which means logic. It's the branch of geology that studies rocks and the condition under which they form. Then, rocks are classified in several ways. First is the mode of occurrence or by their origin, which is the reason of the creation or formation of a mineral. Second is the by their mineral composition, the way in which a mineral is made up. Third is the textures, the feels, appearance, or consistency of a surface of the mineral. And next, by the color, the structure, the arrangement and relation between the parts or elements of minerals. And lastly, the geological and geographical distribution on the earth. And petrology has three subdivision types of rocks. First is the igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, metamorphic rocks. And so, igneous rocks are made because of volcanic eruption. Ang igneous rock na crystalline having the structure and form of a crystal, composed of crystal, ay binubuo ng cooled magma or lava. Ngunit kung ito naman ay proclastic, clastic rocks composed of rock fragments produced and ejected by explosive volcanic eruption. Ito naman ay binubuo ng volcanic ashes. And composition of igneous rocks, ang magma po ay hot molten materials na nasa ilalim ng volcano. Nagiging lava ito pag lumabas na ito sa volcano. And there are three subdivision of igneous rocks. First is the volcanic rocks. From the name itself, the igneous rocks are made from cool and crystallized lava that comes from the volcanoes. Then next is the plutonic rocks. This rock naman ay nabuo sa ilalim ng surface generally between 7 to 10 km below. Dahil nga ito ay nabuo sa ilalim, gawa ito sa magma. And lastly, the hypabyssal rock. This rock ay nakapagitan sa volcanic at plutonic rock dahil doon ay both rocks has been mixed in the hypabyssal rock. Mas mababa ang pinagbubuuan nito, approximately 2 kilometer below the ground. So, the next topic is
Igneous rocks. So this is the types of igneous rocks: granite, syenite, diorite, gabbro, pegmatite, dolerite, and basalt. Granites. These are among the most common igneous. Granite is medium-grained, intrusive igneous rocks that is rich in quartz and feldspar. It is the most common plutonic rocks of the Earth's crust, forming by the cooling of magma. Composition of granites. Quartz, always recognized by its glassy luster, high hardness, and cleavageless transparent white appearance. Feldspar has two variations, the potash feldspar and the soda-bearing feldspar. Types of granites. Many types of granites are distinguished on the basis of relative abundance in them of some particular accessory mineral. Occurrence of granites. Granites are most widely distributed igneous rocks in the crust of the earth. Megascopic identification. Light-colored appearance, coarse to medium-grained texture, abundance of quartz and feldspar. Uses of granites. It can be used in architectural and massive construction. It can use extensively in monuments and memorials. So, uses of granites. Many people recognize granite because It is the most common igneous rock found at Earth's surface, and because granite is used to make many objects that they encounter in daily life. These include countertops, floor tiles, paving stone, erbing, stair street, building veneer, and cemetery monuments. Cyanide. These are igneous, plutonic, and even grained rocks in which alkali feldspar are the chief constituent minerals. Composition of cyanide. The most common feldspar of cyanides are orthoclase and albite, microcline, oligoclase, and anorthite are also present in them in subordinate amounts. Texture of cyanide. Cyanides show texture broadly similar to those of granites. Like that of granite is granular, and these rocks differ from granites only by the absence or scarcity of quartz. Diorite. Diorite is a coarse-grained, intrusive igneous rock. It contains large, interlocking, randomly oriented crystals. It is a dark-colored rock, usually medium to dark gray, containing many mafic crystals. Mostly, it looks like dark-colored granite. Texture of diorite. Diorite is a plutonic, igneous rock with intermediate composition between mafic and felsic rocks. It is visibly crystalline and usually has a granular texture composed of roughly equally sized crystals, although the appearance may vary widely.
Hello, good day. I'm IBMS and I'm going to report the other form of igneous rock. The first one is gabbro. Gabbro is a coarse, green, and usually dark-colored igneous rock. It's an intrusive rock. It means that its formed as magma cooled slowly in the crust. Igneous rock with similar compositions are basalt, extrusive equivalent of gabbro and diabase. The same rock type could be named dolerite or microgabbro. So, ang gabbro ay isang intrusive igneous rock na kung saan may texture na magaspang at kulay na itim at minsan naman ay dark green. Napoform ang gabbro kapag yung molten magma ay nag-cold slowly in the Earth's surface. And this is the most abundant rock in the deep oceanic crust at ginagamit din siya sa construction industry. The next one is pegmatite. The word pegmatite derives from Homeric Greek pegnaini, which means to bind together, in reference to the intertwined crystals of quartz and feldspar in the textures known as graphic granite. Pegmatites are extreme igneous rock that form during the final stage of magma crystallization. They are extreme because they contain exceptionally large crystals, and they sometimes contain minerals that are rarely found in other types of rocks. So, ang pegmatite naman ay nangangahulugan na to bind together kasi most of pegmatite have a composition that is similar to granite with abundant quartz, feldspar, and mica. Sinasabi rin na ang pegmatite ay isang extreme igneous rock because nagko-contain siya ng large crystals and other minerals na mahirap hanapin or makita sa ibang rock. Next is characteristic of pegmatite. Pegmatite rock is a holocrystalline intrusive igneous rock which is composed of interlocking panaritic crystals. These rocks are composed of many distinct minerals. Pegmatite is an igneous rock formed underground with interlocking crystals usually larger than 2.5 cm in size or 1 inch. So, ang pegmatite ay isang intrusive rock which composed of many minerals katulad ng spodumene, beryllium, gemstone, tourmaline, aquamarine, and topaz. And syempre meron siyang usually larger than 2.5 cm or 1 inches na size. Next is dolerite. Dolerite, these are igneous rock of typically hypabyzal origin having formed as shallow sills and dikes. Equivalence of gabbros of plutonic origins and basalts of volcanic origin. So, ang dolerite ay medium grain equivalent ng gabbro. Ang kristal nito ay maliit ng onte dahil ang magma ay nagko-cold ng mas mabilis and yung dolerite ay nagpo-form ng magma na merong iron and magnesium pero poor siya sa silica and or quartz. Compositions of dolerite made up of plagioclase. So, pag sinabi natin plagioclase, a group of common rock-forming minerals and ginagamit siya as a gem materials. Dark minerals like yogite, olivine, and iron oxides are also present in good proportion in dolerites. So, sinasabi dito na yung dolerites ay mayroon dark minerals. Next is mostly medium to fine grains and rocks. Meron siyang medium fine grains rocks. And next is opitic and propyritic textures are common in many dolerites. So, pag sinabi natin opitic, parang yellow crystal na plagioclase. And pag sinabi natin purpuritic, ito yung nagpapakita ng minerals into distinct populations. Next is occurrence of dolerites. Sills and dikes of doleritic compositions have been recorded at many places associated with magmatic activity. So, yung sill is synonymous with concordant intrusive sheet. Ibig sabihin, hindi nito pinuputol yung across pre-existing rocks. Next is basalt, or lavas, are volcanic igneous rock formed by rapid cooling from lava flows from volcanoes either over the surface or underwater on oceanic floors. So, yung basalt is one of the most common rock type here in earth crust. Is commonly formed as an intrusive rock kapag yung lava na nagpo-flows from volcanoes is mabilis lumamig. Compositions of basalt made up of calciplagioclase, feldspar, and number of ferromagnesian minerals. So, sabi ko nga kanina, yung plagioclase is a group of common rock minerals na ginagamit as gem materials. Next is distinguished by the type and proportion of ferromagnesian minerals. So, pag sinabi naman natin ferromagnesian minerals is nagko-contain ng iron and magnesium. And ina-apply siya to certain dark silicate mineral tulad ng amphibole, porcine, biotile, and olivine. And the last one is pasonite is an olivine-rich basalt and tephorite is an olivine-free type basalt. So, ito na may nagko-contain ng more on rich calcium.
For the continuation of basalts, we have occurrence of basalts. Before I start, I introduce myself. My name is Cristel Lysette F. Reyes. So, we proceed to occurrence of basalts. Basalts form extensive lava flows on the continents and oceanic floors. In India, the Deccan Troughs, which are of basaltic, are spread over more than 400,000 square kilometers in India Peninsula. So, Deccan Trough is a large igneous province of West Central India. Isa ito sa pinakamalaking volcanic features sa ating mundo. Next, sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks are also called secondary rocks. This group includes a wide variety of rocks formed by accumulation, compaction, and consolidation of sediments. These sediments, defined as particles produced from the decay and weathering of pre-existing rocks. So, sedimentary rocks are types of rocks
na nabubuo gamit ang deposition of minerals or organic particles as well as the decaying and weathering of pre-existing rocks. Formation of sedimentary rocks, decay and disintegration. So decay and disintegration, rocks existing on the surface of the earth are exposed to decay and disintegration by the action of natural agencies like atmosphere, water, and ice on them. Next is the transport of sediments. The wind, running water, and ice in the form of glaciers are common agents of transporting or carrying millions of tons of sediments and particles from one place to another. So, ang pinakakilala natin na nagta-transport ng ating particles o ng mga particles from one place to another is yung mga sapa, dagat, dahil sila ay mga running water. Next is gradual deposition. Gradual deposition, the sediments as produced through weathering and erosion are transported to settling basins. These basins may be located in different environments such as continents, along the seashores, or sa mismong loob ng ating dagat or deep sea environment. Next is diagenesis. Yung diagenesis is the type of chemical changes occurring during the conversion of sediments to sedimentary rocks. So, meron tayong dalawa dyan, which is cementation and welding. Cementation is the process by which loose glaciers or sediments in a settlement basins held together sa tulong ng pagbabind ng mga materials. Nabubuo sila gamit ang pagbabind ng mga materials. Next is yung welding. It's a process of compaction of sediments accumulated in lower layer of the basins dahil sa pressure na ina-exert ng mga load of the overlaying sediments. Next is the three basic types of sedimentary rocks. Number 1, mechanically formed or classic rocks. Number 2, chemically formed or non-clastic rocks. Number 3, organically formed or non-clastic rocks. So sa 1 muna tayo, mechanically formed sedimentary rocks are the rocks of 3 types. It has rudiceous rocks, which is cementing together of boulders. Ang example nito ay ang conglomerate. Next is areneous rocks. Ang example naman nito ay ang mga sandstones. And argillaceous rocks, which are clay rocks. Ang example naman nito ay ang mga shales. Next is number 2, chemically formed or non-clastic rocks. Chemically formed sedimentary rocks are the rocks that are formed from the liquefaction of sedimentation formed by the saturation and precipitation of salt in water. Mga halimbawa naman nito ay silt, coal, diatomics, rock salts, and iron ore. So last is organically formed or non-clastic rocks. Organic sedimentary rocks formed from the accumulation of plants and animals debris. Ang example naman nito ay mga chalk, coal, and diatomites. Next, texture of sedimentary rocks. Origin of grains and size of grains. Sa origin of grains, rocks may show a clastic or non-clastic texture. A sedimentary rock may be partially or wholly composed of clastic or allogenic grains or of chemically formed or organically contributed parts. Kaya't yung mga rocks ay pwedeng may clastic texture or non-clastic texture. Size of grains. In sedimentary rocks, varies with wide limits. Individual grains of less than 0.002 mm and more than 250 mm may form a part of whole of this rock. 3 texture recognized on the basis of grain size. So, yung coarse grain rocks, siya ay average lang, average grain, which has the size of 5 mm. Medium grain rocks average grain size between 5 mm and 1 mm. Sa fine-grained rocks, average grain pa rin, which has the size of 1 mm. Next, shape of grains. Sediments making the rocks may be various shapes, rounded, sub-rounded, angular, and subangular. Yung mga shapes daw ng grains ay pwedeng round, sub-rounded, angular, or subangular. So, packing of grains may be one packed or porous in texture or densely packed depending upon their environment of formation. Pwede daw siyang open pack or porous in texture or densely packed depende sa environment of formation. Next is fabric of grains may contain elongate particles. Their orientation is studied and described in terms of their longer axis. So sila naman daw pwede namang daw may mga pahabang grains. Next is crystallization trend. In sedimentary rocks of chemical origin, the texture is generally defined by the degree and nature of crystallized grains. Rocks may show perfectly interlocking grains, giving rise to the crystalline granular texture, or they may be made up of non-crystalline colloidal particles when they are termed as amorphous. Next is the sedimentary rocks. Sandstones, limestones, shales, conglomerate, and breccia. So these fives are going to be tackled by the next reporter.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, classmates. I am Clary May Magno, and now I will discuss about the sedimentary rocks and limestone. First, I discuss sedimentary rocks, which is have a different types: sandstone, limestone, shale, conglomerate, and breccia. Next, sandstone are mechanically formed sedimentary rocks of arenaceous group. Yung sandstone, merong siyang 20 to 25% of all sedimentary rocks. Also made of compacted sand. Yung sandstone, belong siya sa arenaceous group. Next. We have composition of sandstone, quartz, and feldspar. First is quartz, most common mineral making of the sandstone. Yung quartz daw, nagko-compose din siya ng silicon and oxygen atoms. Tapos, yung itsura ng quartz para siyang crystal. And minsan, nagpo-form siya ng colorless. Feldspar are found in just small portion. Yung feldspar daw, less stable kaysa sa quartz. Also, make up only 10 to 15% of all sandstone. Texture of sandstone, medium to fine grains. Usually, meron ding texture na magaspang at parang butil yung texture ng sandstone. Next. Color of sandstone. Colors in variety of red, brown, gray, and white are most common. Depend on its composition. Sabi dito sa color of sandstone, depende daw sa composition ng sandstone. Minsan, may variety ng red, brown, gray, puti, at iba pa. Next. We have 7 types of texture of sandstone. Siliceous silica, Second, argillaceous, which is carbonates of calcium and magnesium. Third is ferruginous, which is iron oxide compounds. Fourth is arkose, rich in feldspar. Gray matrix composition, flagstone, which is mica. And the last one is freestone, which is composed of moss, quartz, and does not contain mica, ganister. Yung siliceous daw, which is silica. And then, yung freestone, nagko-compose siya ng quartz, pero hindi siya nagko-contains ng mica. Hindi katulad sa flagstone, which is merong mica. Next. Uses of sandstone. Sandstones are most commonly used in constructions. Especially, noong ancient time, mas popular na gamitin yung sandstone para sa building material. Usually then, widely used around the world, lalo na sa pag-construct ng mga temples, homes, and other buildings. The distribution of sandstone. After shale, sandstone are the most found in upper 15 km of earth crust. In acute, 15% of total sedimentary rocks. Yung sandstones daw, makikita natin in upper earth crust within 15 km. Tapos, meron siyang acute na 15% of total sedimentary rocks. Next. The next is limestone. Limestone are composed chiefly of carbonate of calcium with subordinate proportion of carbonate of magnesium. Also, limestone form on both biochemically and mechanically. Yung limestone daw, galing sa non-plastic group. Nagko-contains din siya at least 50% calcium carbonate in the form of calcite by weight. Especially, nagpo-form din siya ng biochemically and mechanically. Next. Composition of limestone. Composition of limestone is invariably made up of materials calcite. Also, in terms of chemical composition, limestone are chiefly made up of calcium oxide and carbon dioxide, while magnesium oxide is the impurity of the most limestone. Right? Yung calcite daw is chemically calcium carbonate. In terms of chemical composition daw, chiefly made up of calcium oxide yung composition of limestone. Next. Also, composition of limestone, it is called magnesian limestone when it exceeds 2% of magnesium contents. Other oxide, silicon dioxide, ferrous oxide, ferric oxide, and aluminum oxide. Also, strontium oxide. Next. Texture of limestone. Fossiliferous, concretionary, compact and dense of its. Yung texture of limestone daw, depende din sa varieties kasi marami itong varieties. Meron siyang texture na granular, yung fossiliferous, which is contains of fossils. Next reporter.
And John Fernando for types of limestone without volcanoes, brightest which have been formed with a genetic precipitation from seawater. Allocanes can be formed where they in the constituent soil form. Next, we have allocanes, formed from precipitated calcareous sediments that have been transported from one to another, where they finally deposit. Allocanes were rock that originated at a distance from its present position. Common types of limestones. First, we have the chalk. Purest form of limestone mix is shallow limestones. Fossiliferous limestones rich assemblage of fossils. Shallow limestones is composed of fossilized organisms such as brachiopods, protozoans, carnites, and sponge. Next is argillaceous limestones contains of clay. Common types of limestones we have lithographic limestones, compact massive homogeneous varieties of bare limestone. Lithographic limestones usually form in clear, warm, shallow marine waters. Conifer is non-marine origin. Calc-sinter are also known as calcareous sinter, a rubber line of calc sulfide found around margins of hot spring. Calc-sinter it is a freshwater calcium carbonate deposit. Shale. Shale is a fine-grained sedimentary rock of argillaceous composition. Shales are generally characterized with a distinct facility parallel to the bedding planes and are made up of very fine particles of silt grade and to some extent of glass. It shell also commercially important. It is used to make brick, pottery, tile, and Portland cement. The major mineral in shale are pyrite, kaolinite, and cementite. Composition of shale. The exact mineralogical composition of shales is often difficult to ascertain because of the very fine size of the constituents like oxides of iron, carbonates, and organic matter. Silica and clay minerals together make more than 70% of shales in most cases. Shales are very intimate mixtures of quartz, clay minerals, and accessory minerals. Basis of their origin, residual shales. These are formed from decay and decomposition of existing rocks followed by compaction and consolidation of the particles in the training basins without much noise. Residual shales, this is their means after most of something is gone. So next we have the transport shale. Transported shales, these are deposits of plastic materials of fiber dimensions transported over wide distances before final settlement in basins of deposition. Transported shales transported from wide distance before settling in one place. Next we have the hybrid shales. In such shales, materials derived both from plastic sources and non-plastics, especially those from organic sources, make up the rock. So hybrid shales, this is combination of plastic and non-plastic sources. Basis of mineralogical composition. Quartz shales, rich in free quartz content. Feldspathic shales, in which feldspar clay minerals predominate. Silica becomes a secondary constituent.
Composition of shale. The exact mineralogical composition of the shale is often difficult to ascertain because of the very fine size of the constituent like oxide of iron, carbonates, and organic matter. Oxide of iron or iron of oxide have long been recognized as a vital role in controlling the fate of heavy metals in soils and sediments. Carbonates or carbonates rocks is composed mainly of carbonate minerals. The principal member of the group are sedimentary rocks, dolomite, and limestone. Dahil alam naman natin na yung shale ay isang uri ng limestone, siya ay nabibilang o katulad ng mga carbonate rocks. Ang example naman ng organic matter ay mga petroleum at yung mga natural gases. Silica and clay minerals together make more than 70% of the shales in most cases. Silica is name given to a group of minerals composed of silicon and oxygen, the two most abundant elements in the Earth crust. Clay minerals is a group of important hydrous aluminum silicate with a layer structure and very small particle size. Shales are very intimate mixture of quartz, clay minerals, and accessory minerals. The composition places shale in category of sedimentary rocks are also known as mudstones. Basis of the origin. Residual shales. These are formed from decay and decomposition of pre-existing rock followed by compaction and consolidation of the particles in adjoining basin without much mixing. Number two is transport shales. These are deposits of plastic materials of fiber dimension transported over the wide distance before the final settlement in the basin of deposition. Number three, hybrid shales. In such shales, materials derived from the clastic sources and non-clastic, especially those organic sources, make up the rocks. Basis of the mineralogical composition. Quartz shales, rich in free quartz content. Feldspathic shales, in which feldspar and clay minerals predominate, silica become a secondary constituents. Basic basis of mineralogical composition. Chloritic shales. In these shales, mineral of chlorite group are chlorite group and clay group make the bulk of the shales. Mica Micaceous shales. Micaceous shales. These are rich in muscovite, mica, and other flaky and clay minerals. Ngayon naman, papaliwanag ko o share ko sa inyo kung ano yung mga gamit ng shales. Crush and mix with water to produce clay made in a variety of useful objects. Used for manufacture of bricks and tiles. Clay's source of alumina, paraffin, and oil. And black shales contain of organic materials that break down a form of natural gases or oil. Punta naman tayo sa conglomerate. These are sedimentary rocks of clastic nature and also belong to the Rhodaceous group. They consist mostly of the rounded fragments of various sizes but generally above 2 millimeters, cemented together in clade or heterogeneous or mixed matrix. The roundness indicates that the constituent gravel have been transported to considerable distance before their decomposition and transformation into conglomerate rocks. Basis of the dominant grade of the constituent gravel. Boulder conglomerates. It has a 256 millimeter size. Caval conglomerate 64 to 256 millimeter. Pavol conglomerate 2 to 64 millimeter. Paano nga ba nabubuo ang boulder conglomerate? Boulder form when the water freezes and expand, causing the rock to crack This process is known as mechanical weathering. The downward slope of the region combined with the melting permafrost underneath resulted in the movement of the rocks downward or mass wasting to create boulder field. Cavol, Cavol naman tayo. Cavals are the stores which used in the earlier time for street and roads. Cavals are the large pebble which have often been rounded by the following water. Pebble or pebbles. Pebbles are the rocks broken up into smaller pieces by weathering agents such as wind, water, and ice.
Good day, I'm Miriam K. Mendoza and ako po yung next reporter. One way to categorize breccia is by its method of formation. The example of this is some breccia form as material that accumulates at the base of a steep slope or cliff. Cliff are the rock face, especially at the edge of the sea. So, cataclastic breccia. This is formed when a fragment fall from a fault. And volcanic breccia, pyroclastic or igneous breccia. This is formed from a compaction of lava chunk with ash. So this is the example of cliff, and this is the cataclastic, and ito naman yung sa volcanic. Collapse breccia. This is the sedimentary breccia formed from the collapse or cavern. Cavern is cueva. Impact breccia. Impact breccia is formed from a meteor impact breaking rock at the impact site. Hydrothermal breccia. This is formed when fluid fracture a rock. So this is the example of collapse. Ito naman yung sa example sa left side, yun yung example ng impact breccia sa field. And dito naman sa right side, ito yung example nung rock. And ito yung sa hydrothermal. Metamorphic rocks. These are the rocks formed from another rocks. They are sedimentary or igneous rock that have undergone change as a result of extreme pressure and heat. The name defines their formation, whereby meta means change and morph means form. The heat from magma and friction along fault lines is the major contribution of the heat that brings about the rock changes. Even though the rock do not actually melt, some minerals groupings distribute the elements within the original materials to form new composition of minerals that are more stable at the new temperature and pressures.
Metamorphic rocks make up a large part of the Earth's crust and form 12% of the Earth's land surface. Metamorphic minerals are those that form only at the high temperatures and pressures associated with the process of metamorphism. So ano nga bang metamorphism? Metamorphism means to change form, is a process that leads to changes in the mineralogy, texture, and sometimes the chemical composition of rock. And it is a change in the structure or constitution of rock due to natural agencies, as pressure and heat, especially when the rock becomes harder and more completely crystalline. So, para mas maintindihan natin, explain natin kung ano yung mga natural agencies na yun. So, natural agencies are the agents of metamorphism that includes heat, pressure, and chemically active fluids. And the process of metamorphism does not melt the rocks, but instead transforms them into denser and more compact rocks. And these minerals, known as index minerals, include sillimanite, kyanite, starlite, andalusite, and some garnet. And para sa mga di nakakalam, ang index minerals in metamorphic rocks indicates how much the original rock was metamorphosed and called the rate of metamorphism. And explain ko isa-isa itong mga index minerals na binigay. So, sillimanite. Sillimanite, this is named from American chemist Benjamin Silliman, is an index mineral indicating high temperature but variable pressure. Next, kyanite. Kyanite, also spelled cyanite, C, also called distin, silicate mineral that is formed during the regional metamorphism of clay-rich sediments, and it is an indicator of deep burial of a terrain. It is found in the schists and gneisses of regionally metamorphosed areas and less often in quartzite or eglogite. And the uses of it is for ceramics and gemstones. Next, starlite. Starlite is a mineral that is commonly found in metamorphic rocks such as schist and gneiss. It forms when shale is strongly altered by regional metamorphism, and the uses of it is for little industrial use. Next, andalusite. Andalusite is not particularly stable in the weathering environment, but it may be found in sand and sandstone if low to medium grade metamorphic rocks are not too far away, and it used to manufacture high temperature porcelain of spark plugs and used to make high temperature ceramics used in furnaces, kilns, incinerators. Next is garnet. Garnet occurs in many colors and has many industrial uses. Garnet is the name used for a large group of rock-forming minerals. So, yun yung mga index minerals. 5 basic metamorphic textures. So, bago natin simulan yan, ano nga ba ang texture? Ang texture ay ginagamit to describe the size, shape, and arrangement of grains within a rock. And there are two types of metamorphic rocks. Those are foliated and non-foliated. So, ang foliated metamorphic rocks have a layered or banded appearance that is produced by exposure to heat and directed pressure. Ang examples of foliated rocks include gneiss, phyllite, schist, and slate. And next is non-foliated metamorphic rocks and does not have a layered or banded appearance. Examples of it are hornfels, marble, and quartzite. And the 5 basic metamorphic textures with typical rock types are slaty, schistose, gneiss, granoblastic, and hornfelsic. And slaty, it includes slate and phyllite. The foliation is called slaty cleavage. Ano nga bang slaty cleavage? So this type of foliated texture describes a rock's tendency to break or cleave along a specific crystal plane. Slate is a rock with excellent rock cleavage as it breaks in flat slabs. And para mas natin, may intindihan, may iba pang explanation dyan. So slaty cleavage is a pervasive parallel foliation or layering of fine-grained flatty materials or chlorite in a direction perpendicular to the direction of maximum stress. So, ano nga ba mga platy minerals na yan? Ang mga platy minerals or mica minerals is a mineral name given to a group of minerals that are physically and chemically similar. Schistose. Schistose includes schist. The foliation is called schistosity. So, ano nga ba schistosity? So, it is a type of foliated texture that describes a rock created with large platy minerals such as mica and chlorite. Sabi ko nga kanina, that have grown large enough to be seen by the unaided eye. Sabi ko na kanina kung ano yung mica and chlorite. So, para malaman ulit, ang mica and chloride are some example of the platy minerals. And platy minerals is a mineral name given to a group of minerals that are physically and chemically similar. So, hindi natindihin yun, di ba? So, next is gneisos. So, the foliation is called gneisosity. And during high-grade metamorphism, ion migrations can result in the segregation of minerals. Although foliated, gneisses will not usually split as easily as slates and schists. So, gneisses that do cleave tend to break parallel to their foliation and expose mica-rich surfaces that resemble schist. And next, granoblastic. Granoblastic includes granulite, some marbles, and quartzite. So, i-explain ko mamaya kung ano yung marbles and quartzite. So, granoblastic. Granoplastic texture is a typically equigranular texture formed in metamorphic rocks when grains mutually adjust their boundaries in the solid state in an attempt to achieve textural equilibrium. So, granoplastic is a non-foliated metamorphic rock. And last is hornfelsite. So, hornfelsite includes hornfels and skarn. Hornfels is a fine-grained metamorphic rock that was subjected to the heat of contact metamorphism at a shallow depth. Again, hornfels is a non-foliated metamorphic rock. The metamorphic rocks are quartzite, marble, slate, gneiss, and schist. So, sabi ko nga kanina, quartzite ay isang non-foliated metamorphic rocks. Kasama niya yung marble. And slate, gneiss, and schist are foliated metamorphic rocks. So, quartzite. Quartzite is a metamorphic rock, almost entirely of quartz. Forms when a quartz-rich sandstone is altered by the heat, pressure, and chemical activity of metamorphism. So, physical properties. Color typically is white to gray but has iron stains that cause it to be pink, red, or purple. Other impurities can cause a quartzite to be yellow, orange, brown, green, or blue. On the Mohs hardness, scale quartzite is 7. So, ano nga ba yung Mohs hardness sinasabi na yan? So, Mohs hardness of a mineral is determined by observing whether its surface is scratched by a substance of known or defined hardness. So, kung nanonood kayo ng Jerry Rig Everything, yung mga reviews niya about sa mga phone, so, ang ginagawa niya kasi ay nag-i-scratch siya ng mga screen ng cellphone para makita kung scratchable pa siya or scratch-proof pa siya, scratch-resistant. So, sinasabi din niya doon kung ang pang ilang Mohs hardness ang mga yung tibay ng screen ng isang cellphone. So, merong scale niya kasi. So, 1 to 10 ang scaling ng Mohs hardness. Anyways, sabi nga dito, ang Mohs hardness scale ng quartzite is 7. So, ano-ano yung mga bagay na or common object na makakagasgas lang sa quartzite na yan. Ang common object ay steel nail. Yun yung ano dyan, yung makakagasgas sa screen or sa quartzite na yan. Next, formation of quartzite. Most quartzite is formed during mountain building events at convergent plate boundaries. Quartzite is one of the most physically durable and chemically resistant rocks found at Earth's surface. So, sabi nga kanina, ang Mohs hardness niya ay pang 7. So, pakatlo siya sa pinakamataas. So, ano nga bang pinakamataas niya? Ayan yung diamond nga. Pinakamatibay, pinaka-durable, or unscratchable na rock. So, Quartzite is a non-foliated metamorphic rock, sabi ko nga kanina, composed almost entirely of quartz. It forms when the quartz-rich sandstone is altered by the heat, pressure, and chemical activity of metamorphism. Next, marble. Marble is a metamorphic rock composed of recrystallized carbonate minerals, most commonly calcite or dolomite. Alam niyo na sana yung dolomite, no? Yan yung ginamit doon sa may Manila Bay. So, anyways, marble is typically not foliated, although there are exceptions. Etymology, the word marble derives from the ancient physical origin. Marble is a rock resulting from the metamorphism of sedimentary carbonate rocks, most commonly limestone or dolomite rock. Marble is composed primarily of calcium carbonate. And ang most hardness nito or most hardness scale is about 4. So, ano nga mga bagay na pwede makagasgas dyan. So, possible na dyan yung mga piso. Yan, mga piso. So, next is slate. Slate is an extremely fine-grained metamorphic rock characterized by slate cleavage, by virtue of which it can be readily split into thin sheets having parallel, smooth surfaces. So, sabi ko nga sa inyo kanina, slate cleavage ay ang parallel foliation of fine-grained platy minerals in a direction perpendicular to the direction of maximum stress. And slate is a fine grain having a fine and smooth texture. Exceptions. Etymology, the word marble derives from the ancient physical origin. Marble is a rock resulting from the metamorphism of sedimentary carbonate rocks, most commonly limestone or dolomite rock. Marble is composed primarily of calcium carbonate. And ang most hardness nito or most hardness scale is about 4. So, ano nga mga bagay na pwede makagasgas dyan. So, possible na dyan yung mga piso.
Slate. Slate is an extremely fine-grained metamorphic rock characterized by a slate cleavage, by virtue of which it can be readily split into thin sheets having parallel smooth surfaces. So, ano nga ba yung slate cleavage na yun? Slate cleavage is a pervasive parallel foliation of fine-grained platy minerals in a direction perpendicular to the direction of maximum stress. So, ano nga ba yung platy minerals na yun? So, platy minerals or mica minerals is a mineral name given to a group of minerals that are physically and chemically similar. Composition of slate: very fine flakes of mica, chloride, microscopic grains of quartz, feldspar, and oxides of iron. So, na-explain ko na sa inyo kung ano yung mica. So, ang mica nga ay also called as platy minerals, and same goes as the chloride. Origin: slate is a product of low-grade regional metamorphism of argillaceous rock, like clays and shales. So, ano nga ba yung argillaceous rocks? So, argillaceous rocks or argillaceous minerals are minerals that contain substantial amount of clay-like minerals. Next, when slate is subjected to further action of dynamothermal metamorphism, recrystallization leads to the development in number and size of some minerals, especially micas. So, ano nga ba yung dynamothermal metamorphism? So, it is a common type of metamorphism involving the effects of directed pressures and shearing stress as well as wide range of confining pressures and temperatures. And, na-explain ko na sa inyo kanina, so micas nga ay yung mga platy minerals. And such metamorphic rocks with conspicuous micaceous constituents and generously slaty appearance are termed phyllites. Uses of slate. Slate is used locally for construction purpose as a roofing and paving material only. Gneiss. So gneiss is a megascopically crystalline foliated metamorphic rock characterized by segregation of constituent minerals into layers or bands of contrasting color, texture, and composition. And composition of gneiss. So feldspar and quartz, pyroxene and amph- amphibole groups. So, ano nga ba yung feldspar and quartz? So, feldspar and quartz. So, these bands are usually light in color and alternate with bands of darker colored minerals with platy or elongate habits. So, ang pyroxene and amphibole groups, ano nga ba yung pinagkaiba ng dalawa na yon? So, pyroxene, so it is any of a group of important rock-forming silicate minerals of variable composition, among which calcium, magnesium, and iron-rich varieties predominate. And while amphibole naman ay ito ay any group of a common rock forming silicate minerals. So ano nga pala yung silicate minerals na yun? So silicate mineral, so it is any of a large group of silicon oxygen compounds that are widely distributed throughout much of the solar system. And texture and structure. So coarse banding and imperfect foliation. So, ano nga ba yung coarse banding na yan? So, simulan natin sa coarse. So, meron tayong tinatawag na coarse grained rocks, which is, it is a variety of rock that, with minerals, with mineral grains large enough to see without a magnifying glass. So, na-explain naman sana yan, sa mga naunang nag-report. So, next ang banding naman. So, the banding is developed under high temperature and pressure conditions. So, next, imperfect foliation. Imperfect foliation, so, madali naman explain to. Syempre, di siya parehas as foliation kasi ang foliation ay it is a metamorphic rocks that have a layered or banded appearance. Ibig sabihin, kung imperfect ito, so hindi siya layered or banded appearance na napoproduce na by exposure to heat and directed pressure. So, next, varieties of gneiss. So, gneisses of all varieties are generally the result of advanced stage of metamorphism of a variety of parent rocks such as sandstones, conglomerates, granites, and rhyolites. So, ano nga ba yung parent rocks? So, kung tayo, syempre, tayo mga anak, syempre may mga parent tayo, no? Sa mga, may pinagmumulan tayo. So, ganoon lang din sa parent rocks. So, kumbaga, ang sandstones and granites or rhyolites or conglomerates ay ito yung mga pinagmulan ng gneisses or origin ng gneisses. So, there is difference of opinion on the original of the granite gneisses. Their mineralogical composition is close to granites, but in structure, they appear more metamorphic. So, the most common minerals in gneiss are quartz, potassium feldspar, and sodium feldspar.
Uses of gneiss: compact, dense, and massive varieties of gneisses find application as road stones and in some cases as building stones. Schist are megascopically crystalline foliated metamorphic rocks characterized by a typically schistose structure. It usually has better crystallization of mica minerals. They are biotite, chlorite, and muscovite, so this is called schistosity texture. What is schist made of? When a volcano erupts, the magma runs down into the holes and hardens, making schist. Also known as schist is made of magma. Composition of schist: platy and rod, like acicular minerals from the bulk of most of the schist. Micas, chlorite, hornblende, Tremolite, actinolite, and kyanite are quite common constituents of most of the schist. Quartz and feldspars are comparatively rare but not altogether absent. Varieties of schist. Specific names are given to different types of schist on the basis of predominance of any one or more minerals. Some commonly found schists are muscative schist, biotite schist, cerussite schist, and tourmaline schist. Categories of schist. Low-grade schist formed under conditions of regional metamorphism at low temperature. These are rich in minerals like albite, muscovite, and chlorite that are unstable at high temperature. The other one is high-grade schist, formed under conditions of regional metamorphism and are rich in minerals that are stable at high temperature, such as andalusite and gamete. What is the hardness of schist? From 4 to 5 on the Mohs scale, which is only indicative of its relative hardness against other rocks and minerals. Uses of schist. It is used in building houses or walls because it is strong and durable. It has been previously used to make decorative rock walls. Presently, it is used as decorative stone as well as for jewelry. In Australia, houses that were built using schist in 1800s are still standing today.